When you start detaching from a woman, the very first shift that happens is in the balance of power. So much of attraction and connection is tied to the energy you bring to the interaction. And when you've been overly focused on her, constantly thinking about what she's doing, how she feels, or whether she's pulling away, you unknowingly place her in the position of control. You hand over your sense of value and self-worth to someone else's hands. And that's where neediness is born. Neediness doesn't always mean blowing up her phone or begging for attention. It can be as subtle as the way you carry yourself, the way your mood changes when she doesn't respond quickly, or how much you put your life on hold just to accommodate her. All of those little actions communicate dependency, and dependency kills attraction. When you begin detaching, you remove her from the pedestal you've unconsciously put her on. You stop treating her as the source of your happiness and instead return that power back to yourself. Suddenly, you're not waiting by the phone. You're not chasing validation through every text or every little sign of affection. Instead, you focus on yourself, on your goals, on living your life in a way that excites you with or without her. That shift changes everything because people feel energy even when no words are spoken. She can sense when you are centered, when you're not leaning in emotionally, and when you're not anxiously hoping for her attention. That shift creates curiosity because most men do the opposite. Most men panic when they feel distance and they try harder, they push, they smother. You, however, by detaching, show composure, strength, and self-respect. The beauty of this shift is that you no longer allow yourself to be controlled by her behavior. Whether she's warm or cold, whether she's showing interest or pulling back, your mood doesn't swing like a pendulum anymore. You become consistent. That consistency is what makes you appear calm and unshakable. It's attractive because women naturally feel secure around men who don't crumble under emotional pressure. When she feels your energy pull back in a confident, grounded way, she notices. She feels the change without you needing to announce it. She recognizes that the control she once had over you has weakened, and now she has to put in effort if she wants to stay connected. That effort is where attraction can be reignited. Detachment also sends a subtle but powerful message. You're not afraid to lose her. This doesn't mean you want to lose her, but it does mean you value yourself enough not to tolerate disrespect, neglect, or indifference. When a woman feels that you will stay no matter how she treats you, she loses respect because certainty without standards breeds contempt. But when she senses you're willing to walk away, if she doesn't value you properly, her respect naturally increases. Respect is the foundation of attraction, and detachment reestablishes it by no longer acting from a place of desperation. You remind her that you are a man of choice, not a man of need. Now, this doesn't mean detachment is about playing games. It's not about ignoring her on purpose, giving her the silent treatment, or trying to manipulate her emotions. That's insecurity disguised as confidence, and women can feel that too. True detachment is about reclaiming your balance, about no longer allowing your emotions to be dictated by her presence or absence. It's about being secure in who you are, knowing that you add value to any relationship, and understanding that your life doesn't stop for anyone. You're not punishing her by detaching. You're simply redirecting your focus to where it should have been all along, on your purpose, your growth, and your happiness. As you do this, something else happens that you may not even notice at first. She begins to lean in. When you stop flooding her with attention, the absence becomes noticeable. She starts to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you're no longer orbiting her world like you used to. That curiosity creates tension, and tension fuels attraction. Instead of you chasing her energy, she begins to chase yours, And even if she doesn't move closer, you still benefit because you've taken back control of your emotional state. You no longer depend on her behavior to feel good about yourself. Detachment forces you to grow stronger because it teaches you self control. It trains you to manage your emotions instead of reacting impulsively. You begin to see where you were giving too much, where you were losing yourself in the process of trying to hold on to her. And once you see that clearly, you can never unsee it. You'll recognize that true strength in relationships doesn't come from clinging tighter, but from being willing to let go. That willingness shifts the power back into your hands because you're no longer afraid of the outcome. You're free to enjoy the connection if it's healthy, and you're free to walk away if it's not. Ultimately, the shift in power that comes from detachment is about balance. It's not about dominating her or controlling her, but about reclaiming your own center. When you stop pouring all of your energy into her and start investing it back into yourself, you change the entire dynamic. She feels it, she sees it, and whether she admits it or not, she respects it. Because at the end of the day, no one is truly attracted to someone who needs them more than they need themselves. People are attracted to strength, independence, and emotional stability. Detachment gives you that edge. It reminds her, and more importantly, it reminds you that you are enough with or without her. And that's the power of detachment. It shifts the energy, rebalances respect, and places control of your happiness back where it belongs, in your own hands. When you start detaching from a woman, one of the most fascinating things that often happens is that her attraction begins to increase. At first, it might feel counterintuitive. Most men think the way to win back a woman's attention or affection is to give more, to push harder, to stay constantly available and make sure she knows she's a priority. But what they don't realize is that over giving and over chasing actually smother attraction instead of building it. When you step back, when you stop making her the center of your universe, when you detach from that constant need to please or win her approval, you create space. And that space is powerful. Space creates curiosity. Space makes her wonder. And curiosity is the beginning of renewed attraction. Think about it like this. When someone always knows where you are, what you're doing, and how you feel, there's no mystery. Predictability kills excitement. But when you detach, you reintroduce an element of the unknown. She's not sure what you're doing with your time. She's not certain what's going through your mind. And she's not fully confident that you're still hanging on her every word. That little bit of uncertainty makes her start thinking about you more. She starts asking herself questions. Why is he chasing me like before? Has he moved on? Has he seen someone else? Does he even care anymore? Those thoughts stir emotions in her, and the emotions create a pull. Attraction is deeply tied to how a woman feels when she thinks about you. When you detach, you trigger that emotional curiosity again. Instead of trying to convince her of your value through words or actions, you let your absence do the talking. She has to feel the contrast between when you were fully invested and when you started pulling back. That contrast is what makes her notice. Most men never allow that contrast to exist. They chase so relentlessly that the woman never has the space to miss them. But when you stop leaning in so much, she begins to feel the difference. And with that difference, she starts to reevaluate her feelings. This isn't about manipulation. True detachment isn't a strategy to trick her into wanting you. It's about you stepping into a place of balance where you're no longer controlled by the need for her validation, but the natural byproduct of that balance is that you become more attractive, you look stronger, calmer, and more independent. You're no longer seeking approval, you're simply living your life. And that kind of energy is magnetic. It communicates that you're a man who doesn't need anyone to complete him, a man who is whole on his own And that's the type of man women gravitate toward. There's another layer to this. When you detach, you change how you show up in the moments you do interact with her. Before, maybe you were overly attentive, overly reactive, or too quick to drop everything for her. Now, because your energy is no longer wrapped up in her, you come across as more relaxed. You listen without trying to control the outcome. You respond without urgency. You allow the conversation to flow instead of forcing it. And that shift in behavior feels refreshing to her because it contrasts with the pressure she might have felt before. Instead of her feeling like she's being suffocated by your attention, she feels the freedom to lean in at her own pace. And the moment she feels that freedom, attraction has room to grow. Women are emotional creatures, and they crave the experience of pursuing someone who excites them. If you're always there, always chasing, always predictable, she has nothing to pursue. She has no reason to wonder about you, no reason to think about you when you're not around. Detachment flips that script. Suddenly, you're not giving her constant reassurance. Suddenly, you're not the one initiating every conversation. Suddenly, she has to wonder what's on your mind. And that wondering creates desire. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about being genuinely engaged in your own life so fully that you naturally become less available. That genuine detachment makes her start to lean in more because she feels the gap and wants to close it. Attraction also grows when she sees you thriving without her constant attention. Maybe she notices you're spending more time on your goals. Maybe you're out with friends. Maybe you're focused on your passions again. That energy radiates confidence. It shows her that your world doesn't revolve around her. And ironically, that's what makes her want to be part of your world even more. No woman wants to feel like she's the only thing keeping a man afloat. She wants to join a man who's already moving forward with purpose. Detachment allows you to embody that. You're not sitting around waiting, you're living, and she feels drawn to that momentum. The fascinating part is that even if she doesn't immediately respond with more attention, you still win because you've taken your power back. You're no longer waiting on her texts or her calls to determine your mood. And that kind of self-control is incredibly attractive over time. Even if she tries to test you by pulling away further, your calm detachment shows her you're unshaken. That calmness is rare, and rarity is attractive. While most men would panic and chase harder, you remain steady, and that steadiness makes you stand out. Eventually, she'll either step closer or drift away. If she steps closer, it's because your detachment reignited her interest. She felt the shift and realized she didn't want to lose you. If she drifts away, then detachment revealed the truth. She wasn't truly invested, and now you're free to attract someone who is. Either way, detachment increases attraction, not just hers for you, but your own attraction to your life, your goals, and your sense of self. And that's a win no matter the outcome. Detachment isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about creating space for genuine attraction to breathe again. It's about showing her and yourself that you don't need anyone to define your worth. When you step into that place, you become magnetic. You become the man she can't stop thinking about, not because you chased her endlessly, but because you had the strength to step back and let her feel the loss of your presence. And that's when attraction begins to grow again. And that's why her attraction often increases the moment you start detaching. When you begin detaching, one of the most empowering shifts that takes place is the way you regain emotional control. Before detachment, it's easy to find yourself in a constant cycle of reacting. If she pulls away, your mood drops. If she texts, your energy spikes. If she seems distant, you feel anxious and start overthinking every little detail. Your sense of stability gets tied to her actions, and that's where most men lose their balance. They become like a leaf in the wind, being tossed around by whatever she says or does. But when you detach, that dynamic changes completely. You stop allowing her behavior to dictate your emotional state, and instead, you reclaim the ability to stay calm and centered no matter what. Regaining emotional control doesn't mean you stop caring or that you turn into someone who is cold and indifferent. What it means is that you stop living on an emotional roller coaster. You no longer let temporary highs or lows control how you feel about yourself or the relationship. Detachment allows you to breathe, to slow down, and to respond instead of react. Suddenly, you're not rushing to send a text out of fear she might lose interest. You're not panicking when she takes longer to reply. You're not questioning your worth every time her mood changes. Instead, you're grounded, you're steady. And that steadiness feels powerful not only to you, but also to her. The truth is, women are drawn to men who can handle their emotions. When you're detached in a healthy way, you're no longer giving off desperate or anxious energy. You come across as confident, as someone who's in control of himself, as someone who doesn't break down at the first sign of distance. That emotional composure makes her feel safer around you. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel like the man she's with can handle pressure. If you crumble when she pulls back or tests your patience, she can't trust that you'll be strong when life throws real challenges at you. But when you maintain your balance, even when things feel uncertain, it communicates that you are the kind of man who can lead with calm confidence. What's most powerful about regaining emotional control is how it frees you from fear. You're no longer worried about losing her because you know you'll be fine with or without her. That mindset gives you the ability to enjoy the relationship instead of clinging to it. You're no longer negotiating from a place of desperation. You're simply present, relaxed, and confident in your own value. That presence creates a natural sense of ease that makes her want to be closer to you. And the more you practice detachment, the more natural it becomes to stay grounded regardless of her actions. That is the gift of detachment. It gives you back your emotional control, and with it, the power to show up as the best version of yourself. When you truly begin to detach, one of the most valuable things that happens is clarity. When you're caught up in emotions, constantly chasing and overanalyzing every little thing she says or does, it's almost impossible to see the truth of the situation. Your feelings cloud your judgment, and you convince yourself that as long as you keep trying harder, things will eventually work out. But once you step back, once you detach and allow space, you start to see reality much more clearly. You begin to recognize whether she actually values you or whether she's been keeping you around out of convenience, habit, or simply because you were always available. Detachment removes the fog and it forces the truth to reveal itself. When you're not chasing, when you're no longer pouring constant energy into her, you get to see how she responds in the absence of your effort. If she cares, she will step forward. She will show interest. She will make an effort to close the gap that your detachment has created. That's the beauty of clarity. You don't have to guess anymore. Her actions tell you everything. On the other hand, if she doesn't step up, if she fades away or doesn't seem to care that you're no longer investing as much, then you have your answer. As painful as that realization might be, it's a gift because now you're no longer wasting time and energy on someone who doesn't truly want to be there. Clarity through detachment also helps you understand your own patterns. It shines a light on how much of yourself you may have lost in the process of trying to keep her close. You begin to see where you abandon your own needs, your goals, and your self-respect just to maintain a connection. And with that clarity, you gain the strength to make different choices going forward. You no longer operate from fear of loss, you operate from a place of truth. And truth always empowers you. There's also a peace that comes with clarity. You stop living in the exhausting cycle of guessing and overthinking. You don't need to dissect every word or analyze every pause in communication. Instead, you let her actions speak. That frees you from anxiety because now you're basing your decisions on reality, not on the story you've created in your head. And once you see the truth clearly, you can decide whether to continue giving your time and energy or to walk away with confidence. Detachment ultimately brings you to a place where the relationship either deepens with authenticity or naturally fades because it was never truly meant to last. Either way, you win because you're no longer stuck in confusion. You finally see the situation for what it really is, and that truth sets you free. And that's why detachment always brings the clarity you need to move forward with confidence.